doses only and are not intended for use as diagnosis, prevention, or treatment of a health or other problem, or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Some concepts presented herein may be theoretical and have little or no scientific substantiation. Users are advised to conduct their own diligence.
Welcome to Ask the Experts. Mike's up. Variety of life-enhancing subjects.
Thank you.
Today we delve into holistic healing and whole food nutrition with the Natural Health Authority, Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing. And now here's Jason.
Hello, everybody. Hi, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and we got another show. I want to start off today by saying I'm going to take some radio calls if anyone wants to call in. Let me give out the number. It's 313-272-5600. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and my company is Strategic Healing. You can go to my website, strategichealing.us. Right now, I'm also on my Facebook page because I broadcast this and record it lively. This is my Facebook page is Strategic Healing, and later I take these shows and I put them on my Facebook page, lots of pages, and that is my Facebook page. I'm sorry, my YouTube page is Jason Eagle QRA, because I am a Quantum Reflex Analysis practitioner. Again, the number to call in today is 313-272-5600. The number to call in the show, or I'm sorry, my office, if you want to schedule an appointment, that's what we're going to talk about today, is what is an appointment like. The office number is 734-985-5891. You can also go to my website, that's strategichealing.us. That's not .com, it's .us. strategechealing.us. And you can go up to the top and it says schedule, and you can click on that, or you can call me up and I can help to schedule you. But today we are going to talk about one of the questions that did come over on my YouTube. God, get them all confused. Lots of things. And that's not to say I got an Instagram page. You can go to my Instagram page. I think that's Strategic Healing, or it's Jason Eagle QRA. You can see what I'm doing on the farm, because there's a lot of other things that I do in terms of even just it's a holistic life. I live the life that I'm talking to you about. And what is a holistic healthcare practitioner? What's behind it? What is it all about? It can be summed up, which is what you originally showed up for your health quest, whether it be for your doctor, or whether it be your counselor, or whether it be, you walking into a health food store or the vitamin section of a place. You want to get to the bottom of it. And let me tell you, that's what you really want to do, because a lot of the medical system, in particular the Western medical system, that's the doctors and stuff like that, or that's that section where you can buy all the drugs that you want, whether that's, let's say, acetaminophen or ibuprofen or an aspirin or a Gaviscon or all of, something to help you go to the bathroom. I mean, all this over-the-counter stuff, like say you go to a pharmacy or you go into the section of any store, whether it be Target or whatever. The reason you're going there is because now, most people think, and that system really treats you, which is you have a symptom, something's bothering you, and you're going to take something to make it go away. And that's just treating a symptom. But I think people are really starting to understand that it's really more about, because, again, when you keep chasing symptoms, most people get frustrated at the end because it doesn't answer the question, which is, how did I get here? Let's get to the bottom of this, because if your basement keeps leaking and it floods and you have to clean it out and get rid of stuff every year, rather than saying, well, let's just, get better boxes so that everything, that is a symptom. What you need to do is you need to get to the bottom of it. What's going on here? Did we not dig this basin right? Are we living too close to a river? Did it not perk? I mean, all of these different things. And that is the real issue, which is you don't want to just keep making up for this thing happening again and again, especially when people most people, when they come into this world as a youngster, most youngsters, most children are relatively healthy. There are some that are not, but even those that don't come in healthy, can you fix that too? Can you get to the bottom of that? Yes. Again, like a crack baby, right? The problem with that poor baby is that, mom had crack in her system, or a toxin. What is that? That's a toxin. That's a poison. So a lot of times children even coming into this world, let's say with autism or, a bunch of other different types of condition, including deformities, it came from something happened along that way. And certainly you can't fix all deformities, but you can fix a lot of things. And there's a lot of things in terms of how the body works, in terms of that would be considered, let's say, an immune deformity. Let's say the kid that gets sick all the time, or the kid that, constantly has sinus infections and has to have their ears, the ear surgery and all this other stuff. 9 times out of 10, that can come from like a nutritional deficiency, something that the body was not getting, something that the mother's body was not getting. And could we put that into the body now? Is it too late? It's never too late. It's never too late. So that's what I do, which is if you really want to get to the bottom. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. If you want to call in to the show, it's 313-272-5600. And again, we're going to talk about what is an appointment like. I just explained to you why. The why is because you're sick of spinning, or you want to start out right. Let's say you're a young person and you've been healthy, but you're just now starting to have some, instead of going to that other system, again, the other system, the Western medicine, if you break your arm or if you're in acute trauma or something like that, yes, that's the best place to go. But most people's conditions are a chronic condition. Good example, most women, hormonal problems that later turn into having to have a hysterectomy or something like that, or real serious stuff, started when they first started having their period. Women are having periods much younger. You can have girls that start like 9 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. Let's say it's even 15 or 16, and that's getting late for these days and age. And they start with a bunch of cramps, and they start with really heavy bleeding or something like that. And they go through their life going, is this how it has to be? And all mother can do, or let's say the physician is say, well, just make sure you take your Midol, or make sure but they never get to the bottom of it. And it starts there. So for instance, a good example of that is most commonly a B6 deficiency. So most women, that later turns into a deep hormonal problem, started in their gallbladder, started in their liver gallbladder, and they didn't get and the most important nutrient for the gallbladder is, let's say, B6, and then there's choline, and there are things that you can do. And so sometimes people come into, like, that's a good example. It's a girl that comes in and she starts having these problems. But rather than having a person like me that says, oh, let's figure this out, 9 times out of 10, I can tell you it's because you're eating this Western diet and you're not getting the B6. You're not getting these different types of things. And even if you ate them, it's not enough. You need it in a supplement form. And I'm going to tell you, I've dealt with so many issues like that people, it's so much easier to and more successful, and you get more time being healthy if you can start early on that stage. So rather than going through decades and decades of this and that and this and that, I can tell you all the horror stories like that example of, oh, they took this out and then they put me on this drug and it was this, and next thing you know, you're the woman that is working at a Walmart somewhere, and you can tell she had to shave. You can tell that she is growing whiskers. We've all seen that before, and her hair is starting to fall. She's got very thin hair and overweight, but it's not because she eats too much. It's just she's got a glandular problem. She's got a hormonal problem, and by that time, she just gets put on all these different types of things, and it just gets worse. And again, could this have been helped? Yes. So that's just one example, but I'm going to go through all these different examples of how do I work with people? What do I do? What is an appointment like? This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. The number to call in is 313-272-5600. So let's start with this, which is you made that appointment. You listened to me. Let's work out a scenario. You listen to me today and you go, that sounds like something I want. And you call up my office and I talk to you and we start talking a little bit and you say, I got this. And then I go, well, yes, I can help you. And who do I say, sorry, I can't? Nobody. There's nobody that I say I can't help because everybody has a body and the body fits these rules. The flesh fits some rules. The energy in terms of neurology fits some rules. And then the spirit fits some rules. There are these things, which is there's an operator's manual to the car. And if you basically stick to that, it's going to run forever. Okay? And it's going to do great for you. So let's say we've made this appointment. Okay, you come in. It starts with what's called the initial QRA. Most people, it's going to take an hour and a half for me to listen to you, figure out what we're going to do, test you, and then come up with a program. And that hour and a half is, if you're doing an initial appointment, that's $200 because I charge $135 per hour. And so that's an hour and a half. And an hour and a half is for the testing, for the QRA, for me to really figure this out. That's good money well spent because what we're getting out of this is actually, and I can ask you what's going on, and then I can ask you what you think you need, but you don't know what you think you need, and even if you knew, you'd probably say it wrong. You'd probably pick something different than what your body says. Like what your body says you need to eat today as opposed to what your eyes see. You can say, oh, I really feel like I need some cake today, but your guts or your liver says, no, actually you need some bitter greens today. You need some more lemon. You need some more eggs. You need these types of things. So that's what I'm asking, what does your body say? What are your organs saying? So an appointment starts like this. And then again, I can also do an appointment that is a remote appointment. It's better for me to have you in the office. So today I'm going to discuss an in-office appointment. You come in and we are face-to-face. We can also do this, and I can do this very well with people. Let's say you can't come into the office. Let's say you don't want to come to this office. Let's say you are in a different state, which I do this. I treat people all over the country. I've had people come in from all over the country to come see. But we can do Zoom. We can do Skype, we can do FaceTime, we can do a phone call, and I can figure out an awful lot in order to help you. And then I can ship you the supplements if it's about supplements, or we can go over, sometimes it's a diet and stuff and so I create a program that I can email to you, or I can take a picture and send it to you, or I can, send it in the mail. Still a bunch of old people who still don't do computer. They're getting less and less, and I try and always encourage older people, get online. Have someone teach you how to do a computer. It used to be that you could go to the library, but now you got family members, and that's what I would say is learn your technology, because technology is a tool that I use, and it's a tool that you should learn how to use. It makes your life a lot better. So you've come into the office, all right? You sit down, and then we start talking, and it starts with this. I listen. And then as I'm listening, I start asking questions, and then I listen to that. So I can steer sometimes to what I need to. And sometimes I will say, especially with people come in with a long list, I say, just tell me your story. Just tell me. And they'll tell. And I have people come in with books who say, I've written this down. I've been tracking this. I have people that come in with boxes and bags of supplements, and I can test those things too. We don't have to just use what I offer. I can use what you have too. But it's about figuring out your body, what it needs. So after I've listened, then I can, for instance, determine, all right, we're going to start testing your body this way. I can also, at that time, determine if this is something I think would be better, or also as a team, a referral, meaning, I think really this issue, again, your sinuses, we can test this, and I can also get it from the intake going, I think it's a teeth. And then I can test and I can say, it's a tooth. It's a bad tooth, right? You've got a rotten tooth, or you have a root canal that went bad, or you have a crown that was put on that it's leaking and there's a bunch of infection that's going, and that infection is going up, and your sinuses are always plugged up because it's trying to heal that infection. And so if I put you on a bunch of supplements or different stuff, that's just treating the symptom. That's not treating the heart of the problem. And so if I suspect that it's a dental issue, I say, let's figure out what we need to do here. But then in the next week or so, go to this guy, go to this girl, and I'll match you up. I have a bunch of practitioners. Or let's say it's a urologist, or let's say it's a chiropractor. I can work on you too, but sometimes a really good adjustment by a good chiropractor. And I have chiropractors all over the place, and I match you up with the right person, or I match you up with somebody that is close to where you live or you work. Sometimes it comes to other specialists. Sometimes it kind of goes, okay, after we go out of this appointment, go to your doctor and tell them that you should have some of these labs done. Or if you have some labs, people come in oftentimes where the doctor has done blood testing or urine testing or some sort of culture and says, can you read these for me? Can you tell me what this means and see what we're doing? That's what I can do. And I can help to read those labs. And I can look at those labs based upon what's called functional medicine interpretation. Functional medicine is a different way of saying all of these lab tests that you get. When you get a lab test where it says, let's say you just go to a regular doctor and says, okay, we want to look at your iron levels, which is ferritin levels. We want to look at carbon dioxide. We want to look at glucose. We want to look at all of these different types of things. We want to look at, so it's what's called the CBC. It's one of the counts. We want to look like basophils, all of these different things. What standard doctors are looking at is they have a range, and it says, okay, if you're above this number, you're too high, or if you're below this number, you're too low. Well, their ranges, standard medical ranges, are based upon millions and millions of people that they've tested. And then they took an average out of all those people. But what they did is they took an average of sick people too. It's everybody. And so the sick people are in that batch. And that skews the results. Really, it does. And so what functional medicine ranges is like, let's just test healthy people. Okay, because that's how you know where the range is. And what it does is it narrows many of the ranges. So instead of 4 being perfect, but 5 being bad, it's actually 3, between 1 and 3 or something. I'm just giving you an average or something like that. What it is, it's we're not going for, okay, you're almost not sick. We want to go for what's the best. What is the best range of carbon dioxide? What is the best range of your lipid profile in terms of your total cholesterol and the triglycerides and all of these other things? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And that's what I do is I use what has been shown as what's called functional medicine. Why do they call it functional? Is because it's not just about being okay. It's about being optimum function. We're looking for what's the best of the best. I don't want to, a C is not okay. If you're coming in, you want to get an A+. You want to know where that range is. What's the best? Not just okay, right? So let's go back to, okay, now I've listened to you and I said, okay, I can help you here. Let's test your organs. And what I do is what's called the Quantum Reflex Analysis testing. Is what's called a muscle testing. It's also known as what's called muscle response testing. It's also known as what's called nutrient response, NRT. There's a lot of different names for it, but it's basically the same thing, which is I'm going to use your brain, your nervous system, to test your own system. Okay, I don't have to take any blood. It is non-invasive. It's basically using a muscle. I'm using what's called the BiDigital Oring test. So practically as I stand next to you and you're standing there or you're sitting there, and sometimes I have people that are not very strong, and so you'll have somebody, either it's one of my office workers or it's a family member that is strong, and we test through them. So I've tested people that have been passed out in hospital beds. I've tested babies and things like that. How's a baby going to know with you? You don't need them. You need somebody to connect to them. And then I can test through them. It's what's called surrogate testing. It's very, very accurate. So practically what is it? Is I stand next to you and I say, take your, in particular, like say, I usually choose to stand to your left, and I use your left hand. And I say, okay, now take your hand and bring your thumb and your middle finger together, and you form like an O-ring. Basically, if you're going to make an O out of your middle finger and your thumb, and you hold that, you're using your muscles to hold that. And then with my grip, I come in with my hands and I try and pull you apart. Basically, I say, hold strong, which means you are using a voluntary muscle. The muscle in particular is what's called opponens pollicis, the opposable thumb. What they say makes us and monkeys so great is we have an opposable thumb. We are very highly dexterous. Well, you're making your brain to do that. Well, what is your brain, though? Your brain is electromagnetic energy. And so you're sending energy. And when I tell you to hold strong, I test you and say, okay, hold strong. And I do it 3 times so that I can get an average so I know this is what your strong reading is. And I can find out this is what 100% is. So I ask you to hold strong, and then I measure it in my mind. And you measure it too, because you can feel. And you can feel how hard it is for me to pull you apart. Okay? Then what we do is we then use your other hand with 2 fingers, because each finger has a different, what's called galvanic polarity to it. You literally have a positive finger and a negative finger, and a positive finger and a negative finger, just like a battery. A battery has that little nubby part where that's the plus sign, that's positive, and then it has the other part where it's the negative sign, that's minus, and that's what makes a battery work, is the red wire and the black wire. You don't just hook up the red wire. You have to have a complete circuit. So what we're doing is we're using 2 polarities, and essentially it's like this. A modern car, right? A Model T, you have to lift the hood up and start pulling things out to figure out what's wrong with it, right? But a modern car has integrated circuitry, and you plug the computer into it. It sends a signal in, and then it sends a signal back. And what's happening is you're using the car to tell you, the body, you're using the body to tell you if everything's connected correctly. And if everything's connected correctly, the amount of energy that goes in is the same amount of energy that comes. Nothing's lost. That means it's perfect. So that's like this, which is, I'll have you, the very first point that I have you test is the very top of your head, which is right, if you go up the top of your ears and you follow where your nose is, there's a point right at the very top of your head. It's what's called the vertex of the head. And that is what's known as governor vessel. This is in Chinese medicine. That is an acupuncture meridian point, which is an energy field. It's a magnetic field. It's your North Pole. Well, the North Pole is essentially really testing your kidneys. The very first system we want to test in any body and always retest is the kidneys. Okay, so you're using 2 fingers and you push into that area. You're just touching your head. And then at the same time, I'll tell you to hold strong. Now, if you're having some difficulty with your kidneys, meaning your kidneys are not filtering fast enough, or there's some nutrients that the kidneys are missing or something like that, what will happen is that muscle that was originally strong will go weak. Why does it go weak? It goes weak because now in sending the signal from your brain to that finger or that muscle, what's called the opponens pollicis, it's going to that organ, so it's going to your kidneys, and then, so it's going through one thing to another thing. And if that thing is not working as well as it should, what will happen is it loses energy. It's basically, it's like a dim circuit. You're going through a circuit that doesn't have as much energy. It's a blown circuit or a weak circuit, which means then it will weaken your muscles. And most people are going, this is crazy. How's this work? But you can do this blindfolded. I'm not special. I can teach you how to do this. Anybody can do muscle testing. This is where we get into, this is true science. This is empirical evidence, and it's not suggestion. It's not woo-woo. It is actual. Just like, okay, let me use another example, is how do we see this work in true science? This is how a lie detector works. This is the exact same principle, okay? When you are being tested by a lie detector, what they do is they hook up 3 things to you to measure 3 different things in your body, which is it's making your energy's making you do this. Your life force is making you breathe, okay? Which means your respiration rate. And if you're at peace and you're calm, you're breathing at a normal respiration rate, okay? Which is how many breaths a minute. But when you get upset and nervous, you start to breathe faster, okay? The other thing is blood pressure. It measures your blood pressure, which is, not blood pressure, heart rate. It measures your heart rate, okay? And when you're normally relaxed, you have X amount of beats per minute. Let's say 50 to 60 beats a minute, right? They test you, and they sit down and they test you. And then they also have a thing that measures sweat, because when you are lying or have to make up the truth, you start to sweat, okay? So they'll ask you some questions, and the baseline questions are, let's say your name is Paul. They say, is your name Paul? Yes, my name is Paul, right? Then they say, is your name Judy? No, my name is not. Say your name is Judy. You say my name is Judy. And what happens is when that's a lie, you will see the body make this reaction, meaning the brain is making a reaction, and we're seeing things change in your physiological ability. Your heart rate starts to go up. You start to perspire a little bit. Your breathing rate starts to increase, right? Okay. So this is where you can test, and it's making a physiological change. So likewise, when I test an organ that is weak, there will be a physiological change. The physiological change is it depresses the whole system. So I can test that muscle, and now that muscle goes weak. So then I have a test kit that has the supplements or foods or different things that we know are good for kidneys. We know on just a biological level, like for instance, the eyes. Let's say I test your eyes. We can test your eyes. The very first thing you would use to fix the eyes is vitamin E. So I have some vitamin E in a vial that's in my test kit. And if we go to your eyes, which we'll come to later, if we test your eyes and your eyes are weak, so what I do is I have you stand there. And as you're standing there, there's also a little pouch that you put on over your shoulder. It's like a little tool belt, right? A little cotton tool belt. And into that, I will put different supplements, meaning supplements for your eyes or for your kidneys. Now, if we go to a weak organ, let's go back to where we started, the kidneys. There's a product in there that's what's called Renoven or kidney complex. It has herbs and different nutraceuticals that are good for your kidneys that will unblock a jammed up kidney or all these different things. So if your kidney is weak, I put that into the pouch. So how does that make an effect? Because it's all an energetic field. Your neurology, meaning your brain keeping you alive. And a lot of people start to have difficulty with this energy stuff. But let me tell you, everybody knows that we're energy. Let me explain to you how you know. Okay, let's say a person has a heart attack, right? And they fall down and they stop breathing, okay? And then their heart stops. You call the paramedic, and they will do compressions and breathing on you, and then they will also pull out these paddles, which is connected to a battery, and then they'll go, okay, clear, and they'll shock you. What happens is that sends an electrical, it's like hooking you up to, the outlet. It shocks you and it jump starts your electrical. So what starts your electricity back up to pumping, ba-bump, 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 is being shocked by electricity. It's just like, if a car is the battery's dead, how do you start that car? You hook it up to another car and you shock it. You basically jumper cables, right? So what that tells you is that everything, me talking to you and you listening to me, is electrical energy. So don't get weirded out by energy. It is energy, okay? So when we find a particular organ that's weak, what we do is we put the supplement in the pouch. How does that make a difference? As I said, you're an energetic field. You're kind of like a force field of energy so the supplement doesn't actually have to be in your mouth, because if I have you take the supplement, will this fix it? I can't reach down your throat and pull it out, right? And let's say it's the wrong one. Let's say it's not the Renoven, it's actually DHA, which is an oil. That's one of the other things that the kidneys really want, is they want oils. We need fats, okay? So if it's the right remedy, whether it be DHA or it be, let's say a person has a borderline kidney infection, it is Alicidin, that's garlic. Again, this is just dummy proof. If you had, you live somewhere, in an old country and you come and you go, my low back hurts, and they think that it would be a kidney problem, they would, or let's say you got a bladder infection, right? It really burns when I go to the bathroom, or it really hurts in there. If you were to take, let's say, cranberry, or if you were to take, let's say, garlic, right? And just eat a bunch of cloves of garlic. That is an antibiotic and it will kill that infection. So see how simple this is? That's what I do, is I use natural things, but I don't guess at this. We go through each organ gland. So, and how it works is I test that organ. I use your system to tell me, are you weak? Are you strong? If it's weak, the muscle will go weak. The thing that fixes it, which is the nutrient that it needs, is what the body needs. Then when I put it into the pouch and retest you, it will go strong again. And it will go strong just like we tested in the beginning when I didn't have you touching anything, nothing to weaken it. And if it means I'll have to take 1 or 3 or 4, right? I keep putting stuff in, or the different amounts of different things, until that muscle comes strong. And what that means, until now that grip holds strong. And what that basically is, the body is telling you the sweet spot of what that organ needs. So as we start testing, I'll go through the kidneys. And like one of the first things that we use for the kidneys is DHA. It needs oil. Your brain also needs oil. So the next part is right after that. I go to what's called the brain. I go to the occipital lobes, which is right at the base of your skull, or right at the back of your head. What does the brain need, right? I could also put, let's say, walnuts in here, because walnuts are brain food, or fish or something like that. So I put a fish oil in. And if the fish oil is what your brain needs, we all know that your brain is made out of this stuff. But how much of it? Do I need 1 capsule? Do I need 3? Do I need 5, right? So we go through top to bottom. So we start off with the kidney and then the brain. They both need DHA, but sometimes your brain needs something like Cerevan, which is really brain support. Then we go down to the next place, which is right on top of your head, but kind of in the center of your head, and that's hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is an organ inside your brain that is the thing that it's a gland, right? It's a region of the brain, and it controls everything, and it hooks into the adrenals. It hooks into other hormone, or hooks into your thyroid. Okay, so but one of the things that the hypothalamus does is it regulates the body temperature. It's the hypothalamus that makes you shiver when you get too cold, and it's the hypothalamus that makes you sweat when you get too hot. That's that gland that does that. So, but when people got a lot of hypothalamus problems, so again, like say a woman who gets the menopause, who gets I know the room is fine here, but I'm sweating like crazy, and suddenly I become cold, and it's not, or their hands are cold or something like that, right? That's can be related to a hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, we use a lot of herbs called adaptogens. It's one of the first things that we use. Or we can also use another product called amino HGH, which is get your body to produce more human growth hormone. Let's say you're getting older and your muscles are starting to waste away, right? And you are not exercising, and you're even too weak to start exercising. You need to build up more human growth hormone. There are supplements, in particular the amino acids, lysine, arginine, and orthonine. These things, when you take them together, this is what bodybuilders do, and it works. So I could take a grandma, and I can, like a bodybuilding program, I can get you to build more human growth hormone. They're protecting you from having weak legs and falling over and breaking your hip. I'd rather have grandma have stronger legs than her grandson. Her grandson's not at risking falling over and breaking the hip. Grandma is, but it's not because she's dizzy. It's because her legs, or his legs, grandpa's legs, are too weak. He's lost too much muscle. He didn't eat enough protein, and again, he was not able to produce enough human growth hormone, right? I'm just giving you examples of how this works. Then the next thing that we go to is the pituitary. That's another gland that's deep inside the brain, and pituitary is the organ that regulates growth, okay? If you want to call into the show, the number is 313-272-5600. I'm going to just keep going. So pituitary is one of these glands that, like, for instance, Andre the Giant became Andre the Giant because he had a tumor on. Same thing with Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, they call him banana hands because he had a tumor that was, I think it was, they operated on, or I don't remember if they did some sort of procedure, but they stopped it, or it stopped by itself. Because the pituitary is the gland that's deep inside the brain, right in front of the pineal gland. There's another gland in there called pineal gland. We'll get to that one way later, but that one's, all these glands that are inside your brain are super important because they regulate everything that happens in your body, right? And they need nutrients too. Your pituitary needs nutrients. And again, it needs the adaptogen. It could also benefit from a number of other things, which is one of the top things that also I find comes in with these places. Kidneys, pituitary, hypothalamus, is a thing called mediclay. Mediclay is a bentonite clay. It's a dirt, right? But it's a dirt that absorbs toxins. So many times when people are having, let's say, these deep hormonal problems deep inside the brain, it's because their brain or their body is toxic. What are the toxins? Heavy metals, mercury, lead. Again, why was the Mad Hatter called the Mad Hatter? Is because back in those days, the big top hat that they wore had mercury inside the lining. And when these guys wore these hats all the time, and the mercury would, through their sweat, leach into their brain, and they started to go mad, because one of the signs of a mercury poisoning is insanity. You go mad, right? Okay, so then after that, we're going to go to these other places above the ears, which are called cell energy point. Cell energy is essentially, we're testing the part of the brain that regulates all of your detox in your body. Well, detox, it's regulating what's called the mitochondria of the cell. Every single cell in your body, whether it be a blood cell, whether it be a bone cell, a brain cell, each cell, if you kind of think about like a cell, like a water balloon with a bunch of little things swimming inside them, mitochondria are what's inside the cell. They are the energy factories. They are essentially, think of a cell kind of like the Titanic. And what makes the Titanic go? It's got a propeller and it makes it go. It's those 4 smokestacks, because those 4 smokestacks are connected to furnaces. Those were coal furnace. And so when they wanted to go faster, or forwards or backwards, the captain would go ding, 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 and he would do that little thing. And what that would do is it would basically send a signal down into the furnace, and the guys would shovel more coal in it, make that furnace go hotter, right? So that's the mitochondria. The mitochondria needs things. It produces what's called ATP, and it needs all these different types of things. CoQ10 is one of the things that's really good for the mitochondria. But again, many systems, that's why this is so simple, which is it goes basic to, the car running, right? Your engine, let's say that's the engine of the car, is the mitochondria of the cell. Usually what makes that car start breaking down and not running very well is not the fuel that you're putting in, it's the fact that the tailpipe is clogged. So most issues when people are coming in with chronic issues, let's get to the bottom of it. Most of the bottom is detox. People are poisonous and they can't get rid of toxins. And we think, well, I'm a good pooper. I go to the bathroom, we get rid of toxins many different ways. We get rid of toxins by exhaling your breath. You breathe in oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide as well as other gases and other toxins. So we exhale. So again, a person who has a shallow breathing and doesn't breathe very deeply, they're going to hold into a bunch of more toxins. We get toxins out of your sweat. So many times I'll tell people, you really need to start doing some, either a sauna or hot showers or taking hot baths with Epsom salt. Get yourself to sweat. Open these detox pathways, these different types of things. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health appointment. What happens during a QRA appointment, okay? So we've done cell energy. Now the next point that we go down to is we're going down like the head. We're going to what's called memory. And most of this head stuff is all hormones. All of these things that run everything. They're like the Pentagon that run everything, right? All the little soldiers are out in the field, but they get or let's say the corporate headquarters. That's the corporate headquarters. I call it the headquarters, okay? So all of these different, very special organs are deep within inside the head and neck and all this. So the next one is what's called the parathyroid. There's thyroid, which is in your throat, right, behind your throat, but there's also It's also made up of 4 other glands called the parathyroids. Everybody knows about thyroid condition. But did you know about the parathyroid? It's a gland within inside a gland. And the parathyroids direct what's happening with the thyroid. So one of the most important things that we do for the parathyroid would be Medicarella. Chlorella is this blue-green algae type of thing. And what does it do? It pulls out heavy metals. The other thing what we'll use is, let's say, is what's called xenostat. Xenostat is seaweed. Okay. Now keep in mind what I'm doing is how would I figure these things out? Let's go back and I've gone through a bunch of different organs. Let me explain it to you again. What we're doing is having you stand there and hold your fingers together and touch these different with 2 fingers. So you're literally putting your finger into your throat and you're not choking yourself. You're just pushing firm pressure. And that means we're literally pointing to and sending energy in to that thyroid and then asking the thyroid, how are you doing? Right? And if the thyroid is weak, we will bring things in to fix the thyroid. If you've listened to my shows many times, in most thyroid conditions are really created because of our modern way of living. The thyroid produces these thyroid hormones, right? What is the thyroid? Most people, when they say I have a glandular problem, I'm too fat, or I'm either too skinny and wiry and, like on caffeine all the time, that's a hyperthyroid. Hypothyroid is like the hippo, where it's just like you're just big. And then you can get this other weird condition called Hashimoto's, which means you're up and down and up and down. Pick a lane. Which one are you going to be? It's just out of balance, right? Well, the thing that makes and again, the thyroid is the thing that needs iodine. We've heard about iodine. Iodine is this metal that comes from, it literally is a metal. It's a metal crystal that comes from sea salt, that comes from seaweed, all right? But again, when you eat sea salt, it has the iodine removed. It's the sea vegetables. It's the things that grow in the seawater. So iodized salt, which is, like a Morton salt, they actually add iodine, but they add this inorganic iodine. They add this type of iodine. So that's the difference between also when we say, well, you figured out these supplements for me. So for instance, the xenostat, which is seaweed, because seaweed has high levels of iodine, and there's 4 different types of seaweed: kelp and bladderwrack and Spanish moss, and I forget the other one. But what they do is on a biochemical level, they grab onto toxins and they pull them out of the cell. In particular, the estrogens, the xenoestrogens, these false estrogens. So most conditions of thyroid conditions then lead into these hormonal conditions like breast cancer or breast tumors or uterine stuff, or in men, that's where they get the prostate issues. They're all related to these different types of things. Why? Because the body is getting a signal that it's flooded with estrogens, but it's not real estrogens. It's these fake estrogens. It's the imposter estrogens, which are what's called xenoestrogens. Xeno stands for alien. Well, where did these come from? These came from all of the petroleum products, all of the air that we're breathing. So we're in Michigan right now, but we're breathing a bunch of petrochemicals that are coming from stuff that's burning over in California. All of the smoke and so the smog is all of this stuff, all of the drugs that we take, all of the food additives that we take, all of the gasoline that's being, into the air. These are all the plastics that we drink through and get exposed to and wear. These things go into our body. And they're toxic to our body, and our body has to detoxify them. But they turn into these puzzle pieces that look like estrogen, and so they block the estrogen receptor sites. And so a lot of, like, say, for instance, reproductive organ problems, whether it be breast cancer or a lot of these cancers are determined, and are they an estrogen dominance or are they not? Because there's all the different types. The estrogen dominance ones are coming because estrogen is dominant. Meaning there's too much estrogen in your body, and this is both for males and females. But it's a false estrogen. So the answer is get it out of there. Put something into the body to pull it out, because the organ, let's say your thyroid or hypothyroid, it's not a bad organ. So it's like the child that's acting out. something happened to that child. That child was traumatized. And if you want to get to the bottom of why Johnny is getting the bad grades, rather than making him work harder or punishing him, set him down and go, what happened? What's really going on? Well, my friend moved away, or this happened to me. And then now we're at the bottom of it. You're acting out. That's what symptoms really are, is they're really the body's organs acting out. Like the little boy that cried wolf, but it's a little boy that cried wolf that's covered in scratches, meaning something did get at you. You're not lying. So the Western medicine system just says, here, have a sucker and go away, right? Stop your crying, and parents are talking here, we're busy. That is, in the real world, we would call that abuse, right? That is a cycle of abuse. So are we going through a cycle of abuse with our body by not going to it because we know that it really is all about the nutrients? Let me bring this back to you again. How do we know that in bodies? You have a bunch of doctors that still go, well, come on, diet doesn't matter. But I'll tell you what, all of the doctors know that veterinarian medicine, which is animal doctors, how do you treat animals? You feed them correctly. You feed them the nutrients correctly. And if you got a bunch of baby sheep that are being born with like deformed hooves and things like that, it's because they've got a nutrient deficiency, or it's because there's a toxin, meaning, somebody spilled something here and these animals are eating it up off the ground, and it's a poison that's creating genetic anomalies. How are we any different? And if you fix the animals through, we say, well, we're not animals. Yes, you are. You have the same flesh and blood properties as an animal does. And we figured it out that it is the diet and toxins. So it's detoxification as well as nutrification. So we go down the list of the whole body, and I go through and I check each one of your organs. So we've got parathyroid, thyroid, thymus, that's the gland that's right at your sternum. And that's where, when we talk about T cells, like with this virus out there, you need to build T cells. There's B cells and T cells. T cells are your thymus. That's why they're called T cells, okay? Because they're produced in your thymus, this thing that's behind the sternum. It's a gland, and it's the factory that produces this. When we go back again, how do we find out? I stood there and I held your hand and I said, okay, hold strong. And then when you touch your thymus, if your thymus is weak, then that means your thymus is not operating function. Meaning if that muscle goes weak now, if that O-ring breaks, now you can't hold it together. I'm trying, but it doesn't work. When I take my finger away and I don't touch it, I'm strong. Good. Then when I touch it, it goes weak. Wow, that's weird. Now we put in a supplement. So for instance, Nucleamune, that's nucleotides. Or we put in, let's say, colostrum. Colostrum is these cells. And it basically says, you know what, thymus, you don't have to work. I've got this, which means then it gives the body the ability to heal. And sometimes that's what then turns the thymus on. And it's literally putting that nutrient in a pouch that's close to your body, and your thymus feels it. Your thymus picks up on that energy, or your thyroid picks up on that energy. As you're touching it with, let's say, the seaweed inside, before the seaweed, it's weak. After the seaweed, it's strong. Then that means that's what we take. And so we go through the body. As I said, I'm going to go through this whole body. We then, after the thymus, we then go to two places of the heart. That's called inflow and outflow. The top of the heart where blood flow goes in, and then the abdominal aorta where the blood flow comes out. Right? And what do we use? There's Cardioven, or I can use Deltanol. That's vitamin E. That's what's, in the scientific world, is what's called delta-tocotrienols. It dilates blood vessels. It thins the blood. It's vitamin E. It really makes your blood and your heart work better. I could also use, let's say, fermented beets. Fermented beets are, instead of taking the heart medication as a drug, could we take something natural and that's the fermented beets produces high levels of nitric oxide. If you don't think this is true, talk to any bodybuilder and they go, well, of course I take my beets, man, because when I go work out without the beets, my muscles hurt and they don't grow as big. They don't grow an inch a week. When I take my fermented beets and I work out, I watch those veins get big. You know, those guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger with those big veins? That's what makes the veins get bigger, is because you're increasing nitric oxide levels. So grandma and grandpa, that's not going to, or me, who's not going to go out and work like this, but yet I'm feeling my heart is pumping a little bit too hard or something like that, or my blood pressure is a little bit high, I'll take something that will, instead of artificially lowering it, it gives the nutrients of what the heart, because if the heart was tell you what it wants, it says, I'm pumping this hard because this is what's going on. I don't have these nutrients. I don't have this support. You did not give me all the tools that I need to function correctly in the world that you made me live in. So let's say it's a stressful thing. Let's say my heart is normally working normally, but when I go to work and I talk to those people, my blood pressure goes up, right? Your heart is fine. Your heart basically is saying, don't talk to those people, but you have to, right? When it's time to go get a raise or it's time to go get a loan or something like that. So, but if you knew what to take before that, then your heart would be fine. And if you were to take something that wasn't just an artificial thing that was like the lollipop to the little kid and says, here, go away, you bother me, kid. It is, what do you need? You get down in your, what do you need? Do you need me to hold your hand the whole time? Do you need me to be with you the whole? Do you need like a bulletproof vest? Do you need a backpack that has more nutrients in it so that the long trip you have some food? It's basic stuff. And that's what the body is. And we're using holistic in terms of using real foods and nutrients to go and honestly give it exactly what it needs. So as we go, we're going to go down through, then we'll go to stomach, then we'll go to small intestine, then we'll go to large intestine, then we'll go to your colon, then we go down to your reproductive organs. For a female, that would be the uterus. For the male, that would be prostate. And it's just you're pressing in. So we've gone from the top of your head down to right about your pubic bone. So right where your zipper is that's the point that we're pushing into. And you're actually pushing your energy or pushing your neurology, like connecting a wire to that organ and saying, hey, how are you doing? We then go down to circulation points, which are down in the legs. A lot of times people will get swelling in their legs, and that's a circulatory. Then lymphatics, which is a lot of times when people get a lot of swelling in their legs, it's actually the lymph system. You're building up lymphedema. Is there things that we could get your lymph to work? Adrenals, spleen. Another point for pancreas, there's the insulin point and then a pancreas point. There's the gallbladder. There's the liver. There's the deep sleep points, which is the part of your brain, meaning all your different organs are functioning. But what about the part of your brain that produces melatonin, which then turns into serotonin that you got from sleeping at nighttime, right? And if you can't, say people wake up at 3 a.m. and they lay there or they have to get up and get something to eat or let's say watch some TV, they're disrupting their brain. And then that's a day that they're going to be depressed. Now, again, is that based upon nutrients? Yes, it is. It can be based upon, so the nutrients are the underlying, issue, which is give the body the tools that it needs, and then it will give it back to you. Then after a deep sleep point, then we'll go to bone metabolism, meaning let's look at your bones. Are you really losing bone? Do you need more vitamin D? Do you need more calcium? Do you need these different things? Then the lungs, then we can go through the sinuses, then we can go through deeper parts of the brain, then we can go to the parotid glands, which are inside the face, which is often affected by dental issues. I can test each one of your teeth. I can go through and say each one of the teeth, is this something that's a suspicious tooth, to say, you know what, that tooth is fine, you're fine. Okay, no, that tooth really, you should go and have the dentist look at that. Or let's say that teeth is a weak teeth where it's developing some gingivitis. We're going to have you use some of the neem oil, or we're going to have you use some ozone or something like that. Could I put oxygen into that tooth? Could you floss with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide on that? And then that tooth now gets stronger because the oxygen will kill the infection. eyes, then we can test your skin, and then we can test your ears. I can also go to the very specific other parts. Let's say you got a hurt knee. I can test that particular knee, and I can ask that knee, do you want some glucosamine? All right, do you need some of the phytozymes, which is, do you need to clear up some scar tissue that's in there? Do we need to build more calcium in there? I can go to each part of your body. Let's say a person that has a rash on their leg. I can, what's called therapy localize, and ask that rash, what's wrong with you, okay? Is it because you have some sort of infection? Meaning, is it, let's say, a bacterial type of thing? Or is it, let's say, a fungal? A lot of times people get fungal, like a ringworm type of thing. We'll use oregano. Because again, if I were to tell you, not test it, but just tell you, rub some oregano oil with the limonene on there and see what it does. If it's coming from, let's say, a fungal infection, let's say on that toe or on that leg, it will cure it. It will make it go away, right? So, that's the nutrient. That's testing top to bottom. And then after we then figure out everything, then I take everything out of the pouch and I set it down on the desk, and then I write up a program for you and say your body says, based upon all of these organs individually and then all of them put together, you're going to need to take some garlic, which is the alicidin. You're going to need to take some of this, some of this, some of this. Now, sometimes I also take it in terms of that's an awful lot to do. I get a lot of people that come in really sick, and it's just like, wow, I can't eat that whole cake. Just give me a piece. And so sometimes, even if it's a budget too, people go, that's way too expensive. Well, then let's take a piece, and we'll pick out the essential organs in the orders that they work. So most people will start with like a detox. We'll start detoxing first, and then we'll start, that's the kidney, that's the liver, that's the colon, these different types of things. And then we'll work on your digestion, and then we'll work on your hormones and all these other things, and we'll take them in pieces based upon how it works in your life. Now, sometimes also, one of the reasons that your organs are not working correctly is because your spine is because keep in mind, your brain has to connect to all of these organs. Your brain, each one of these organs has to be on a telephone call, has to be on a conference call to everybody, right? Has to be able to talk to the brain itself, but also has to let all the other organs over here. Well, it all does through your spine, through the nerves. And sometimes when a person has an injury, meaning, let's say you got hit by a car or you fell down when you're a kid and you bumped your chin and you got a scar there, that can create what's called an interference field. Meaning, if you saw what's going on inside your nerves, there's a blown circuit there. So the reason, let's say a person's stomach, let's say a person constantly gets ulcers and they have to put them on Tagament, all this other stuff. And I put them on the HCl, which is more hydrochloric acid rather than less. But oftentimes, if it's coming from your back, if it's coming from the nerve that is not working correctly, you're just going to have to keep taking these supplements and it won't fix it. But what's called the interference field, the mud packs, is could we basically reconnect those wires, those invisible wires, and then that's the underlying reason. It's your brain wiring to that nerve. So again, a person that has, let's say, stomach troubles, and we find out that they have an interference field. It's the same type of testing. We'll have you touch your back, and if it goes off, in this one, we're using the pinky finger because it's where it gets into some real finesse stuff. But now I'm looking at the energetic field, and it's looking at that particular vertebrae. So let's say the stomach is T12, right? And people that had a back injury, they go, yeah, my back always hurts there, but then that's my stomach. It really hurts, and I burp up, this acid stuff, and it's, eroding a hole. Well, it's because the nerve is not working correctly. Well, I'm not going to do nerve surgery on you, and even if the doctors could, they wouldn't. There's nothing to cut. There's nothing to replace, because to them, the nerves look fine. But the energy field, meaning the wireless signal, the wires may be connected, but the actual invisible signal, that's the magnetic field. And that's what the mud packs are, is really basically fixing those, reconnecting those invisible lines of force. Now the brain and the stomach can communicate. And now it doesn't even need all these extra nutrients. It just needs the wiring to be replaced. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Boy, that was a whole hour. I almost did an appointment with everybody. That's just a very basic view of what a supplement, what a testing looks like, what an office appointment looks like. And at the end, you get a great program that is very specifically tailored to you, to every single part of your body right now for today. And if you were to go home and do that for a month, you will see most people feel better in at least a couple weeks. Many people, it's like a couple days. They kind of go, this is doing something. A couple weeks later, they go, wow, this is doing something. I really know. So this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ask the Expert.
All right, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason will help you live a pain-free, high-energy, healthier life naturally. As a certified practitioner in multiple healing modalities, Jason creates a finely tuned and highly personalized program just for you that will get you back to living your best life. Get started today by calling 734-985-5891 to make your appointment, or go online to strategichealing.us. Strategic Healing is located at 2545 North Opdyke Road, Suite 106A in Auburn Hills. Ask the Experts with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing can be heard every Wednesday at 1 p.m. right here on WRDT, the Word Station.
When does a person get rights? When a person is a person. All across.
Okay, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Hey, Tara, it's good to see you. Using your vibration plate, will it help or hurt your iliotibial syndrome recovery? It depends. It really does depend. And I wouldn't do it very often. I would only use it maybe about 5 minutes a day. Don't do it more than once a day. The indication is when you get on and you do it, does it make it feel better? Does it feel like nothing? Or if it hurts it? If it hurts it, for sure, back up. And again, not hurting it right away. It can be like a day later. But if it gives you relief a day later, then that's good. Again, iliotibial band, you can even do the vibration thing not standing on it, okay? So, have iliotibial in terms of meaning coming up in the low back, but then it goes down to where the knee is. So sometimes people are saying it's really, I feel it in my knee, right? In my hips or in my knee. So what you do is you sit down on a chair and then put your feet on the vibration thing, and it will vibrate your legs. If I'm trying to, let's say, the iliotibial thing, if it's at the knee place, what I will do is I'll even take, let's say, my fist, or let's say a bonger, right? You know those bonger things, or you could do like a rolling pin. Put the rolling pin on it so it puts weight on it and goes bum, 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 and it bounces on it. And I would take my knees and let's say go this way and go this way, but all while sitting on it. So the vibration is going up into the legs while you're sitting. And it's really going to that lower part of the iliotibial, that's the knee, right? Now, I have found it also very good. Let's say iliotibial band is you can sit on it, right? Sit on it, Potsy. So you can sit right on the middle of it, right? And, the vibration plate that we have is kind of goes like this real fast. You can sit in the middle where the vibration is lower. You can sit in the middle and then, let's say, scooch yours. So if it's the right iliotibial, I'm sitting on the floor, per se, and on it. And I'll scooch that right one, and it will vibrate that one a little bit more. Bah, 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 bah. And I can do it, for instance, while I'm sitting there, and I will do, let's say, you can do where your legs are straight out. You can do it where you're like in a butterfly position. I even do, let's say, like a spine twist while I'm sitting on it or something like that. And that will go directly into the iliotibial or the sacrum, okay? Because again, that's all of this is really coming from anything that's below the knees or above. It's really coming from in the sacrum. So it's deep inside your back. And again, that's where we get into the other issues of, where's a hernia come from, especially an inguinal hernia or something like that? It came from, there's a back injury. The energy's not working correctly, and so the iliotibial is the muscle's not working that right. Same thing in terms of even, let's say, the hernia is, where did the hernia come from? Hernia come from because the muscles that were normally holding it in, it's paralyzed. So think about it, like say a person that's got, let's say, a flat foot, right? Let's say one arch is this way and then the arch on that side is flat. Or let's say one knee is knock-kneed, okay? What's making it do that? It's literally the brain. It's coming from the spine. And so the problem's not where you see it. The problem is where higher up on the chain. Either it's brain injury or somewhere in the neck. And most likely it's the base of the skull and the sacrum, or just the sacrum itself. Now, I wish you lived here and then I would do some mud packs and stuff on it. But again, it's about strengthening those particular muscles. And and that's where the vibration plate can be, because it builds up muscles. It also, shakes stuff, so it moves fluid, it moves the tendon. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to also get, now your iliotibial, which is, I think is the one where it's down at the knee, where it's kind of out of that groove or something like that, and it kind of clicks in and out of that groove. Again, that goes up to, so the iliotibial, if you go directly on the side of the knee, that's that whole, tensor fascia lata, which is that muscle up here, and it goes straight up, okay? Iliotibial band has a straight up and down your leg, on your thigh, right? And then it attaches down below the knee in what's called pes serine, which is the web duck foot around the front of your knee, okay? But then there's also another connection that comes into that same place. So the iliotibial on the side of your knee is made from one that goes there, the joint capsule around the knee, and then also sartorius. So sartorius is the one sartorius goes on the inside. Sartorius comes from the hip, which is also the iliotibial, but it wraps around on the inside of the knee. So a lot of times that one is too tight and it's fighting against. So we get these forces between the upper muscle bodies that are pulling that knee out of whack. And so always go to, and that's where I said too, really releasing the quad muscle, the hamstring muscle. I would also, the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, those different, and then the outer thigh. So this is where I also tell people, a cheap foam roller. The foam rolling is I would do foam rolling and then the vibration, right? Or vice versa, either way. And you don't have to do them right at the same time, but that will help. The rule of thumb is, how do I know it's helping or hurting us, is do I feel better the next day? Or right away, right? But usually it's the next day. Does it make later that day and the next day better? If it irritates it, then it's not good, and you got to slow it down and do something different, okay? Hopefully that answered your question. Love you. Bye-bye.